Hello and welcome to the award-winning Gutter. That's a nice new way of introducing myself. I enjoyed that. I'll do it again. Hello, welcome.
Why are you doing a weird voice?
I'm into it.
I'm into it. Shut up, James. You've got a million
weird voices for a living.
Yeah.
Is this your partridge?
Yeah.
Hello!
He's always on the partridge scale,
Yeah.
isn't he? Let's face it. Sometimes higher up,
Absolutely.
sometimes lower down.
Pure partridge. The great man always has things to teach us. James fucking Sutton. TV's James fucking Sutton.
Who has nothing to teach anyone.
Oh, stop it. And Glastonbury's Mo Stewart.
Hello.
Announced.
Yes.
Again.
When do you leave? Like tomorrow or something?
Saturday.
Saturday
afternoon.
It's a cheeky week before it even starts.
Mo is starting my Glastonbury experience for me for the second year running. He's the first act
Yes.
that I will go and see.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep. Come find me in the app.
Can we see a before and after photo of Mo after a week in Glasgow?
Oh, so I've already been organising my PR team this morning. So it's going to be people taking photos, videos, all kinds.
Oh, we've got a surprise for you as well.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
We've got a surprise.
Is it a big Mo cardboard cutout?
You're in the ballpark.
Amazing.
Wow. So much to look
Yeah.
forward to.
Excuse me if I can't think about transfers for the next 45 minutes.
It's fine, Mo. We had very little
The
transfer
PR team didn't see that coming, did they?
I think, John Gibbons, it's over to talk. I have a word from our sponsors who are, I'm sure, enjoying this Glasgow chat. The value they're getting is incredible. Who are they again?
They are Saley. Saley are sponsoring us for this one on Midweek Extra, and we are really grateful for them to do it. They are from the people behind NordVPN, and it is a fantastic eSIM service. But don't listen to me. Listen to our subscribers, because one of them has been in touch. His name is Jack. I won't give his full name. He doesn't even know I'm reading this out. But Jack got in touch with us and said, thought I'd let you know I had a really good experience with Saley when on holiday in southern Italy this week. Couldn't get on my own data roaming sorted out for some reason. Remembered Gibbons ad on the Midweek Extra show, and it was easy to do. Cost me about £8 after the tour discount for 5 gigabytes of data, which was more than enough for the week of the way. Works really well. Nice one. So that's good, isn't it?
Lovely story. What a lovely story.
We're stuck on holiday. Remembered my lovely words.
Yeah.
And then
So what the fuck am I going to do here? And
Yeah.
Gibbo will know.
and thankfully didn't text me, although sometimes people do that. And someone messaged me this morning. What are those SIM cards called? But that is fine. So you don't get that with Corrie. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one's texting Ken Barlow saying what was the advert halfway through.
Saying nothing.
What were them sofas? So that is the beauty of sponsoring with a podcast. You can just message me and I'll tell you. But it is Saley, and it is an app on your phone. So you download the app straight to your mobile phone, and then it gives you loads of options on where you're going. There is over 200 countries that it is set up on there to do. So you click on, your man here, Jack, clicked on Italy. You say how long you're going for. There's all different plans. And then when it says, do you have a discount code? You say yes, like Jack did. Put in TAW.
Or C if you're in Italy.
Yeah, exactly.
Depends if you've done the language thing.
Yeah,
Just trying to be
he was on his first day. He probably wasn't that far yet.
Yeah.
But he did type in TAW. He got his discount because he is a very wise man, Jack. And then he got stuck in, and suddenly he went from a phone that was next to useless to the world being his oyster. He was able to Google local restaurants, find out where the best wine was, nearest fort, all that sort of thing. He was away. No, but it is great to hear that people are using it and enjoying it, and it is a really good service. I'm looking forward to it because we're going to Hong Kong and Japan for the pre-season tour. We always struggle for data and internet, so I'm going to get everyone sorted on Saley before they go. So there we are. So thanks a lot to them.
And also, how are you going to keep in touch with all the transfer gods?
That is the most important
thing. That is the primary worldwide use of eSIMs, I've heard.
It's probably driving 80% of internet traffic this summer, I would say.
Yes.
Transfers.
Transfers, absolutely. I was thinking the only other thing that drives internet traffic, but I won't say that. Okay. Don't look at me like that. I've seen your hard drive.
No, you haven't.
Yet. Should we move it on? Fuck's sake, James.
Hi.
So you're looking forward to Florian Friday. We're recording on Wirtz Thursday.
Nice.
He's there's talk of flying in for medicals today. I don't know because
he's arriving today doing a little bit of it.
A little bit of a cheeky
and then the
medical.
rest tomorrow.
He's coming doing 20 push-ups. and maybe 30.
It is again like your first day on holiday where you're like, we won't go mad today. We'll just have a little walk, have a real recce, maybe have a little wine,
bit of tapas,
and then we'll go out tomorrow.
Not go nuts. He's not going nuts today. But I think because he's more expensive, he's probably going to have like a 5-day event of medicals, like some sort of quintathlon or whatever. But seriously, actually, there's no seriously to this question. Yay is my main point. We should have him signed, sealed, and delivered, I hope, by the weekend, and that will be a relief.
Yeah, really, really exciting. It's been buzzing for a number of weeks now, and I fully expect the club to announce it in some huge, bombastic...
How far do you think they can go with this? Because they do have to go a bit further than just some Pyro. Well, like an event at the pier head.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we should. You know, like Madrid have always had that bullshit where they get a stadium full of people to.
And they do kick-ups.
Yeah,
that sort of nonsense.
I don't see why. I would go.
I'd go to Anfield.
100%.
To watch him take penalties against Mighty Red, I would go.
My God. Why can't we have that? Why English clubs think they're above that shit? I'm not above it.
It's a British thing. We don't like to make a fuss. It's all very low key. It's all very
Yeah, we've got fucking Mighty Red and what's his Gunnosaurus, and
what's Mighty Red done to you?
That guy.
I was going to say this. We haven't got time for that. Trust me.
No, I love Mighty Red.
Really exciting.
We've all been on a journey with Mighty, haven't we? And I feel like we've all got to a happy place.
Yeah, I mean, it was when it was sort of mooted that he might be coming.
Mighty.
No, nice. No, we're back to Wirtz now.
We've got a bid in for Gunnosaurus, apparently. My sources reveal. Arsenal do not want a deal, but if the price is right...
I want him to come out in the middle of a game and it'd be like WWE wrestling. Like, oh my God, it's Gunnosaurus!
Amazing, wouldn't it?
See, this is why I'm not in charge of anything to do with Liverpool football. I'm just not in charge of anything. Wirtz, very excited. One of the sort of players that instantly improves this team and this squad, which I think is really important. And it becomes more of a complicated thing, doesn't it? When you're winning leagues and you've got a great squad. Finding players that will improve that, I think is a tricky thing, because you've got to balance the kind of youth element and the development of these players with bringing in world-class talent that walks straight into the starting 11, and that is exactly what we've got. It reminds me a little bit of Fernando Torres in terms of how excited I am about the situation and how much I can't wait. Am I going to buy a Liverpool shirt with Wirtz on the back? Possibly. I might break with tradition and actually get a jersey.
Certainly going to make my family wear them. I need a shirt with Wirtz on the back. I don't know if I'll wear it, but
You're going to make them all speak German, let alone get a shirt.
Yeah, I tried that. I've tried that a long time ago. I want to talk a lot today. We did it a little bit the other day about Alexander Isak, because under the umbrella of the big summer, and it's not Brat summer, it's not the summer of Neil, as we heard about weeks ago. It's the big summer. They've all been going on about this for a while, Mo. This big summer.
Yeah.
So they all. We've said it on previous shows. Like the likes of Virgil said something, the manager said something, Werner said something, and probably Andy Robbo said something as well. There's this almost palpable excitement that you've sensed from the club for a few months. Like they really know that they're doing serious business. It makes me believe that the Wirtz, for one, was possibly a lot more done than the recent narrative would suggest, as early as March, I'm going to say, because that's when the manager seemed to be in a happy place. He was exuding that. And it does make you think, if they're talking big summer, could we dream of Isak being added to the mix?
Well, it's funny because you mentioned the Wirtz thing. I saw something today where Rudi Völler, who's been involved at Bayer Leverkusen, had heard months ago that Wirtz was interested in coming to Liverpool. At that stage, people still believed it would end up being Bayern, but it was very much like Liverpool's project intrigued him. And you do have to understand that these massive transfers, wheels have to be in motion from long ago.
Yeah.
And what we've seen recently when it comes to Isak is a flurry of articles in which people have been at pains to stress that Liverpool aren't being put off by this massive fee that Newcastle are trying to throw in order to put teams off. So Liverpool are willing to pay what it costs to get someone like Isak, and we're hearing that again and again and again. And you kind of think, in order for that Liverpool to be putting that out, they have to have had some kind of thumbs up from Isak and his camp to say, if you put that money up, will you come? And he'll say, yeah, I'm interested. So for Liverpool to pursue it to that point, they would have to have had some kind of encouragement. I think from Newcastle's point of view, how much they resist is going to be fascinating to watch because, like I say, they're putting these big valuations on it in order to say we don't want to sell him and we know you're not going to pay that much, so we're just going to value him at that much. But then what if Liverpool call their bluff and say, yeah, we think he's that good too, we'll pay that, what are we going to do now? I suspect that they might get to a point where they're like, we can't actually turn this down. And the other wrinkle in all this is Anthony Gordon. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're Newcastle and you as Liverpool have got £100 million and they're looking at your team and licking their lips, you're going to throw them Anthony Gordons to keep them away from Isak, aren't you?
Yeah.
And so it might end up being that if they fear genuinely that both of those players are interested in coming to Liverpool, they might suddenly make it easier for Liverpool to buy Gordon in order to say, okay, you can have him, but keep your hands off him.
See, there's a lot of moving parts here, John. I forwarded, although Josh, who's not here, God love him, didn't forward my agenda, but I had a link to some. I'm hanging him out to dry here. I put a link to a piece in the Newcastle Chronicle. The Chronicle, it's on their Chronicle Live page. Did you see it at all?
I did get the agenda.
You did.
I mean, I could have forwarded it.
You could have too.
So let's share the blame.
Let's share it. Yes, it's a blame culture, so let's share it. I thought the way it came across, I mean, there's a lot of wishful thinking, of course, going on from our side, but the way it was put across is they don't want to sell Isak. Of course they don't want to sell Isak, but it's the way it's phrased. It would take an astronomical bid, and the player would want it for Isak to move, which is another, you turn the telescope around, it goes, so he would be saleable if the bid was big enough. That's kind of what I read into it. But they're not going to flinch. Feel they have to flinch for anything less than 130 million. You'd think that Liverpool are going to have to do some serious sales business to even be going near Newcastle with a pot of money. Newcastle aren't going to be haggled with.
No, they won't. But the fact that they're open for business at all might be the thing that encourages Liverpool, because this might be the last opportunity. Really, Newcastle are in a bit of a funny place because they've been successful. They've got the wealthiest owners possibly in world football. I haven't ranked nation states wealth for a while, but if they're certainly top three. Let's say they're very, very wealthy owners. So they've got all this money, and they've been successful. They won a trophy last season. They qualified for the Champions League, but because of sort of quirks of the system and because of the PSR rules, they can't quite spend to the levels that they would like to. But that's not going to last forever. Like, if they keep qualifying for the Champions League and they keep being successful, then they won't have to sell anyone. And so Liverpool might end up looking at it like that and saying, okay, well, we've just spent over £100 million on Florian Wirtz, but again, that was probably a unique opportunity to get him. He wanted to move. Bayern were overconfidence or whatever you want to call it. They were able to sort of step in and get it. And so sometimes with these players who are uniquely talented, I think you've got to grab the opportunities when they're there, because for players of that level, I don't think it's easy enough to go, oh, well, we'll just wait till next summer, because next summer Newcastle might be like, well, you thought he was expensive last year. Now we've had 2 years in the Champions League. He might not even necessarily want to go anymore because he sees Newcastle in a certain sort of status now, but also he's just not for sale. And £130 million, might sound a lot, but it's cheaper than just no. And so they might look at it and go, actually, if we don't move this summer, then this even slightly open window might be completely shut. And I think that's how, when assessing Liverpool spending, it seems in a way like completely out of character. But I think in other ways it sort of isn't, because I think they have shown in the past that they're willing to go big on the right player, and also that I think, because of Michael Edwards, his power has grown within the organisation, and I think he feels really aligned with Slot to me. I think both of them fully agree that you've got to be fucking incredible for Liverpool to buy it. those quotes have been knocking around over the last week or so that I'd forgotten about from Slot, where I think from March, where he was talking about Mo Salah, was like, if you want to play for Liverpool, you've got to be as good as him.
Yeah.
That's a big statement.
Yeah.
That is a huge thing to say. That's basically like 8 players in the world.
Yeah.
But one of them we've just bought, and another one we're being sort of linked with now, and so they're living it. And I think Michael Edwards sort of agrees with that, really. And I think where we've been frustrated in the past is when it's been like that or nothing. And I think Jurgen's got a bit frustrated that he talked about, wanting to take risks. But I feel like the two of them are a little bit more aligned. And as fans, you don't mind too much if you get one of them. Because as supporters, we weren't necessarily seeing some of the conversations. We were just going, oh, right, it's another summer when we're not buying anyone or not sort of spending enough. And, but I think if you do get one of them, and then you're a bit, well, it's icing or nothing for number 9. I think the supporters will be a little bit more sort of understanding because, okay, we can see the strategy, and plus you got one of the belters in, and so I think if they can get both of them, I think they will, and I think they'll.
Wirtz and Isak.
Yeah, I think they'll do it, and I think they'll see it as not necessarily, it's a huge amount of money for this summer. They'll see it as a huge investment in this squad that just so happened to both become possible this summer, and so we had to grab those opportunities.
I was intrigued. I'll stay with you just for this bit, John. In that Chronicle piece, they talked about Eddie Howe having a limited budget for this summer, which is interesting. And although they expected to be to not be breaching PSR as they were last summer, it didn't give you. If I was a Newcastle fan, I wouldn't go, "Oh, we're absolutely acing it. We can afford to spend loads." The implication that he's got a limited budget says that if they went too, they can't go nuts because they would breach PSR. Yeah. But if you keep going down that wormhole, you go, well, hang on a second. If they sold one of the big valuable lads, then they could go nuts this summer. So there might be a temptation there.
And that's what I mean about it being a unique opportunity for Liverpool. Because I think for Newcastle, listen, you always have to balance the books to a certain extent, but what is a limited transfer budget this summer will more than likely not be next. So say they've got 50 million to spend net, this summer, that might be 100 or 150 million pound next summer because of the Champions League money and because of sort of the way it works. And so I think Liverpool might look at it in that scenario and think, well, we can't wait, because if you wait around, then suddenly the player isn't there to sort of buy. So it seems like a lot, but they'll be justifying these things over the length of contracts and things like that. And it wouldn't surprise you if they do have a really big summer, that the next summer they're like, absolutely not. Do you know what I mean? Like we spent all the money last year, and everyone will have to sort of cop for it, or it becomes, well, okay, well now it is a bit more in and out, and it's like a full nightclub. Someone needs to leave before someone else gets in. Most DJ, and it's fucking rammed. And so and so it's that sort of situation. But I think they will do it, and I think sometimes we can get a little bit too hung up on, oh, well, they've spent all this money in this window, they won't do more. I don't think they think about it like that.
Well, that's what's fascinating me, James, is the quantum on what Liverpool might spend this summer. I've been saying this all along. Even if they don't get Isak, if they buy a centre forward, you're not getting anyone for less than 65, 70 million. You buy a Katike, it might be 85 million. There's still the potential to do a bit of business at left wing. Liverpool, it's a good chance they spend north of 300 million. Man City, I think by the time, if you add in their January business, will also spend over 300 million this calendar year. Don't know what Arsenal are up to. Don't know if United can, but if you're Newcastle and you want to stay Champions League qualifying competitive, and I think that's vital for them. Neil talks a lot about being vital for them to get back-to-back qualifications. The price on the ticket of competing at the top end of this table is getting to be 100 million spend in a summer, which only yesterday it seems like was a decent spend. It's suddenly nowhere near enough. If you want to put a statement down, you've got to drop 300 million. Now, I'm emphasising this again in the context of the Newcastle-Liverpool Isak love triangle. Because there is an argument, if you're internally at Newcastle, to reiterate what John's theme really is, if we want to spend really big, and we have the money, we have the bandwidth in terms of PSR to spend really big, we might have to sacrifice a star to bring in 4 others and spend something like 300, 400 million.
It's really, really complicated, isn't it?
Yep.
And we're lucky that we've got a kind of history of dealing with these kind of things in terms of the Champions League money coming in, balancing the books. Our wage bill is astronomical. We've got a really, really high wage bill. So not only have Newcastle got to think about what they spend, and as you rightly say, 100 million probably doesn't touch the sides. If you want to get back-to-back qualification, and you want to improve as well. There's not many Newcastle players that I think are world class right now. There's probably 3 or 4. But just taking it back to Liverpool, is there a world where we are in a sort of not necessarily sell to buy, but we have to live within our means? Because it feels very much like the business that we've done so far was that had to happen. We had to get fullbacks in. We could have done with someone up top, and attacking midfielder. Wirtz fits that bill. Aside from that, it's a striker. That's the only kind of real bit of business that I think that's definitely what we need to do. So are we in a world now where we need to start getting players off our wage bill? Is Andy Robertson going to leave? Is Luis Diaz going to leave? Is Darwin Núñez going to leave? Are we in a world where we've got to wait for those players to leave first, or at least know that that's those sort of pieces are moving before we go in for someone of Isak's quality and stature and price?
Well, that's the question. This is the question mark. I think that I called it a love triangle, but you could throw Anthony Gordon into the mix and call it a love quadrangle in a certain sense, because there is a case, and I've put this before, that if the right bid comes in for, say, Luis Diaz or even Gakpo, but one of them, the right bid comes in for them, and they move on. If you just picked up Anthony Gordon this summer with a view to getting Isak next year, there's a certain logic in that. And although I take John's point about Newcastle can, in theory, ask more for Isak next summer, I would imagine if they firmly refused to let him go this summer, and behind the scenes he said, I fancy going, he would be able to get some sort of understanding from them that, okay, not this year, but next year. I suspect that's there with Anthony Gordon.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. In terms of what James is saying about Liverpool needing to spend to buy, I think they would want to do that anyway, simply because if Liverpool spend loads of money on bringing in a striker, it makes it harder to then ask for more money for Núñez, because everyone club knows that you're having to sell now. Whereas we're still in a position where it's like, well, we may keep him. You don't know.
I wonder about that, man. Let me just interrupt you a sec. People always say, you show your hand if you buy first because you show you've got a redundant player. But if you sell first, you then show you're desperate for a replacement. You
show how much cash you've got in the bank.
A bit of both, yeah.
I mean, not necessarily. I think when you've bought someone and everyone's talking about, Liverpool going to play without a striker, is Wirtz going to be a false nine? I think that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to assume that Liverpool are definitely going back into striker market. The reason people are assuming Liverpool going back into striker market is because lots of strikers have come out and saying they'd quite like to play for Liverpool. And I mean, like, currently, who doesn't want to play for Liverpool?
Yeah.
But the Newcastle thing is interesting because the other thing we have to factor in terms of their PSR, but also in terms of what's happening this year and what's happening next year, they're trying to get Isak to sign a new deal.
Sure.
And if he doesn't...
But he's got till 29 anyway, hasn't he?
Yes. But if he says he doesn't want to sign a new deal, then those alarm bells are going to start ringing in and around Newcastle. And they're going to be like, okay, if he doesn't want to commit his future to us, then selling him becomes a much more likely end game. And in terms of their budget, the difference between going after him this summer and next summer, yes, they got into the Champions League, but that money doesn't go into their budget till next year. For Liverpool, the reason why we've got so much money is because we've had a season in Champions League and we have the prize money of winning the Premier League. Our money is here, whereas theirs is coming next year. So next year they may be in a better position to hold off.
We haven't spent for a year, by the way.
But you get into a situation where if they have a similar Champions League campaign to they had last time, where they go out in the group stage, sure, there's 8 games instead of 6. Sure, it lasts to January instead of December. But if you're a player like Isak, you're thinking, well, that wasn't enough.
Yeah.
I want to be in the Champions League I want to be in Champions League year in, year out. I want to be in the knockouts year in, year out. And if Newcastle can't do that, then Liverpool can do that.
There's no metric where we don't fit that bill.
No.
If you're Alexander Isak or his representatives, there's no metric you can use that says that Liverpool aren't the most attractive proposition for you right now.
I think Liverpool, going back to your original point, I think Liverpool will have to sell some players. And I think that they are equipped and they are ready to do that. But I don't necessarily think they're going to be doing any kind of sales that they don't want to do. It's not going to be a case of, oh, well, we'd rather keep him, but we have to sell him. I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be players who they've already decided that they can do without are going to be the ones who sell. And some of them, they may end up staying, but anyone who does leave is going to be expendable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, let's expand the sort of 4D chess theme, John, of Liverpool summer. But Mo mentions Luis Diaz there. There's been some more reports this week. I mean, Barcelona have made lots of noises about wanting him, but they're also saying that there's a report in Mercato, which is Luis Diaz is set to stay at Liverpool as Barcelona are currently focusing all its efforts on signing Nico Williams, who only wants to join Barca. Mundo Deportivo say Barcelona are said to be losing patience trying to bring in Luis Diaz because Liverpool are requesting 80 million euros. They don't want to spend more than 60 million euros. So I actually don't think that's as far apart as it might seem. Spanish champions could turn their attention to Nico Williams. So it feels to me kind of 50-50 as to whether we've got Luis Diaz here or not at the beginning of the season. But Luis Diaz may well be the key to the Newcastle door in some way or other. Be it either because if he goes, you've got to bring in Anthony Gordon, or if he goes, you've got the money to tempt them for, what's his face? Alexander Isak, yeah. It feels like, I don't see do you see a world where Diaz stays and we buy a Gordon or an Isak?
Isak possibly. I don't think Gordon. I think it kind of depends. I guess it depends on how. Yeah, I guess it depends on how they're sort of looking at the front line. There was, the Darwin rumours are sort of still strong, but until anyone sort of physically puts a bid down that Liverpool is close to Liverpool's valuation, then you can't. Well, they will probably feel like that they can't start spending that money. Jota was a little bit quieter than there's been a few recently, sort of a bit more over the last couple of days. Suggestions that he is sort of looking around it and starting to assess his options, which was quite interesting. But I think it does depend a lot on what happens next in terms of outs, both like you point out, Rob, in terms of positionally. But also, financially. But I think the key for me is Diaz himself. And when he did that interview on international duty in the press conference, he just seemed so relaxed about the whole thing. And that was really good for Liverpool, I think, because I think he's looking at it and thinking, well, my hand is pretty good at the moment and I'm in a good place. And whatever happens, I'm gonna be all right. And I think there's been a lot made of his contract and things like that, and it's meant to be pretty low comparatively to his abilities and to what he offers at a top team like Liverpool. But he looked to me like a man who'd sort of found his peace with it, really. And he's 28 now, and when it runs out, to be 30.
Do you know why, John? Sorry to interrupt. Bonuses. I mean, whatever his baseline is, and people have said 60, but maybe it's more like 100. He's going to have earned top-line bonuses with his goal return, with the title, the appearances. So he may have earned more than double his normal wage in the last year.
No, that is completely true. But I think the other thing is, I think he knows. He probably knows that his next contract's going to be massive wherever he goes, and so he's looking at it from a Liverpool point of view. From a business point of view, it doesn't make loads of sense to put him on a big new long contract, because that means for the next 2 years you're paying him probably treble than what he's getting at the moment, and so they'll be looking at it and thinking, well, we're throwing loads more money there at an asset we've already got for no more sort of value, and then after that you're paying him sort of huge amounts when he's going to be on the decline. So we sort of get Liverpool's position on it, but I think for him he's thinking, well, whatever happens, so if I stay at Liverpool, then the next 2 years I'm going to pay this brilliant club. He obviously loves playing here, and we're in a fantastic position to win. So I think what footballers really want, they want to play, don't they, first of all, and then they want to win things, and then they want to earn loads of money. And the order of those sort of depends on the personality and what stage they're at in their career. But he probably thinks, well, if I'm getting two of them at the moment, then that's not too bad, and I could be earning more. Like you said, Rob, though, there probably is bonuses and things like that, but him and his people will be looking at that next contract and thinking, when you're 30, we're going to be looking at that, and someone, whether it's Barcelona, whether it's Liverpool, it might even be Liverpool. We've shown we'll go right to wire these things. We might even in 18 months' time offer him the kind of deal he wants for sort of 3 years. So we might end up even sort of staying, but I just don't think we want to do it now. And I get that, or it might be Barcelona without a transfer fee, you're able to go really high on wages, pull some levers or whatever it is that they do, and get that done. Or it might be he goes to Saudi and he earns ridiculous money, and all those things are option. So he's in a fantastic position. I think, and I think he's spent a bit of time over the last couple of years, probably grumbling about his contract. He's probably seen players who he's better than earning more, and there's always that little thing, with wages. People always say it's not what you earn, it's what other people earn that what annoys people. So he's probably sort of seeing that. But he looked to me, as I say, I really liked his interview, his press conference, because he looked to me like he's completely calm about it. He's like, worst thing in the world, I'm going to play for Liverpool for the next 2 years and win loads of trophies. Fucking brilliant. And then when I'm 30, someone's going to be offering me a fucking amazing contract and I'm going to earn shitloads of money and going to play someone else. It's all right. And I think he's realised, he's come to terms with it, that he's in a fantastic position, and that is great news for Liverpool.
Yeah, it is. It is on balance, James. I think I want to move on to another name or another love triangle, love quadrangle. It could involve Liverpool, Napoli, Nunes, the aforementioned Nunes, Federico Chiesa, and Victor Osimhen. Because the rumours are, I think it was a Fabrizio thing, saying that, or was it Team Talk, one of the two, during contacts between Napoli and Liverpool, which involved Darwin Nunes and Federico Chiesa, Osimhen's name has come up. Early discussions at this stage, but Liverpool are seriously exploring the situation. Sources have told Team Talk that Liverpool have become the 9th club to be involved in the race for the 26-year-old striker and are ready to include Darwin Nunes and Chiesa in a potential swap deal. Osimhen has a release clause of £63 million in his Napoli contract. Interesting one.
Very interesting. We're getting to a stage now, aren't we, where 63 million...
Fuck all.
It's...
Do you know what? It's peanuts, mate.
But isn't that wild that you're going 63? Yeah, he's worth a punt at, what is he, 26 years old?
Yeah.
It's worth a go. I mean, he fits the bill. The Chiesa's an interesting one, because then I think that brings into question, there's been a lot of press around Harvey Elliott on the back of his performance for England, and a lot of people looking at him and going, well, he's not getting the games and the perhaps the accreditation, the respect that he should be getting after serving Liverpool for so long. So maybe he's another one who goes out the door. In which case, do you keep hold of Chiesa? There's so many moving parts, aren't there? Yeah, for me, I'd love to see him play. What you saying, Mo? You're nodding
Good
along.
swap.
I see. Victor Osimhen's a fascinating character for me, because I think lots of people seem to have a real in-depth idea of what his character is like based on rumours, conjecture, and very not a lot. I base what I see of him on the football pitch, and he's someone who I've liked for quite some time.
Has there been questions about his character?
Yeah, because of where he's ended up, and he's ended up on loan and stuff like that.
I think there was one point where people were saying, his wage demands are massive and he's got a bad attitude, and etc., etc. People who say he's got a bad attitude because he's fallen out with Napoli, I'd like you all to go back and Google all the things that Napoli have done to him, and that might explain why he has a bit of a bad attitude when it comes to them. I think as a talent, I think he is a class above most of the strikers who are moving this summer, who have been rumoured this summer. If you take Isak out of the equation, I think Gyökeres, Šeško, Ekitike, he's a better footballer than all of them. I think he's shown it consistently. He's a better footballer than all of them. And as you said, £63 million. If you consider Mateus Cunha moved for that amount of money, would you? So
is he the value in the market this summer?
Potentially, yes. I think the problem for Liverpool is that if you're buying him at 26, he's probably going to want a decent length of contracts, 4 years plus. There is very little resale value if it doesn't work. I'd be tempted. I'd be severely tempted, because I think what he is the one thing that we were missing last season, which is an absolute predator in and around the penalty area. Someone who scares defenders silly, and strikers who scare defenders silly create space for other good footballers. And what do we have in and around them? Other very good footballers. I think just in terms of how the pieces would fit together, it would be a very, very interesting mix. What those wages demands are if they are large, that might be another potential stumbling block because, as we've seen with Florian Wirtz, he's not going in at the very top echelon. He's going just beneath the top echelon. He's not touching Salah and Van Dijk wages. He's kind of just below that.
What's Osimhen's contract like there? Has he got much left?
How long left? I think it's just a year.
Oh, really?
I think so, because obviously they tried to sell him last year, Napoli, and they ended up only going on loan to Galatasaray. So I believe it's a year. I don't think it's very long left.
Wow.
So,
well, then even so, they might not get the 63 million on the release clause.
Exactly. And I think what the other thing that's been so clear is that Napoli aren't entertaining a world in which he comes back to Napoli. Like, they've already bought his replacement, Lukaku. He's already won them the league. So they don't have any hope or need for Osimhen. He might even be, a ball boy if he ends up.
So why do they want Nunes even?
Well, they want backup, but I don't think that. I think they made it so clear to him last season that we don't want you around.
Yeah,
that they couldn't walk that back. Antonio Conte basically, took his name off the locker.
What was the falling out about?
Well, a multitude of things. They disrespected him quite a few different times. Their social media account made some
racist comments. Didn't
yes,
they? Alluded to.
But even apart from that, there was a couple of times when he missed a penalty, and they kind of made some social media joke, basically mocking him for missing a penalty.
Wow.
It was just all of it weird, all of it very, very weird, and they didn't. Considering him and Kvaratskhelia were the main engines for them winning the league, that first time they won the league, he didn't really get the respect from the organisation that he was getting from the fan base. And that was kind of the start of it. Because Kvaratskhelia, he wasn't on a decent wage. That's why he ended up wanting to leave. Osimhen's wage is good in comparison, but just the respect. And if you've done something that good for your club, you want a bit more respect than he was getting. So he felt like he should be moving on. But we have seen him rumoured to be going to so many different clubs without ending up going there. And that tells you that maybe there is something about him that we are all missing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Stay with you on it, Mo, because against all odds, he ends up at Galatasaray. No disrespect to the Turkish league, but it isn't a top 5 league.
The transfer window's just open later, isn't it? So basically, he couldn't get the deal he wanted, and then they do an extra week, and so that's why he ended up there.
But it's not pure money, because he's already turned down a couple of Saudi moves, and the potential wages, the reported wages for those were eye-watering, to the point where if he was only interested in money, then that's where he'd have gone. So he believes that he can still play football at the top level, and he's right. He very much is right. He can. So
who pulls the trigger really ultimately on him? He's going to move, and a big club's going to take him. We assume.
I personally think that if Manchester United had European football, they probably would have made a stronger play for him. But I don't think that he'd want to go there without that. So
it seems like a fairly easy deal to get over the line.
I've got a team for him.
Go on.
Newcastle. 5D chess.
You know what? Stranger things have happened.
Yep.
Genuinely.
On that bombshell.
Maybe we can help. We'll carry him there.
I mean, I take Victor Osimhen, I think, in a heartbeat, just because he's just excited me when we've watched him, John, and he would count as part of a big summer for me. Obviously, we want Isak, but the one, just going back to Isak for a second, the one thing that I think people are sort of pushing out of the conversations, and I don't know quite why, is he doesn't have the best injury record in the world, and I know he's had a good 18 months, I think, ish. Has it been 18 months, 2 years of being injury-free? But I'm still not convinced. He still seems to be missing every now and again for Newcastle. I'm not sure you get him on the pitch every single week. I don't know if there's enough evidence that you can. That's a lot of money without.
I think there's enough time now to throw the dice a little bit that he's over the worst of it. I think he has had all sorts of issues. I think if you'd have asked me this time last summer, I'd have probably gone, yeah, I'm a little bit reluctant to spend the money, but that's a good bank of work last year. That's a good terms of availability. Certainly compared to some of our boys who were up there, he was around more often than not. Yeah, he'd get the odd niggle and stuff like that, but generally speaking, he was on the pitch and he was there in the big games and he was delivering in the big games. I mean, fucking hell, he scored against us, didn't he, at Wembley and St James's Park. And so I think you can drive yourself mad with that sort of thing, and I do get it. Listen, because the saying that the best ability is availability, I think is massively true. But I think at some point you've got to say, well, there's enough evidence here to suggest that he is over the worst of it, and that there is multiple reasons why players can pick up injuries, and it could be how they're being looked after, it could be how they're training, it could be they get one bad injury and then it has a knock-on effect, and there's others, they will back themselves, I think, to manage any problems that they've got, because that's what they've done this season as well. I mean, our injury record is phenomenal, and it's no fluke, because that was one of the reasons why they went for Slot. There were several, and he's shown them all this year. But I think one of the things he prides himself on is he keeps players fit, and he gets players fit, and that's maybe a bit of a secret in terms of how they manage them and how they do it. And as a fan, I don't really care, as long as they're on the pitch. That's great. And so I think, given how he's seemingly turned the corner on that, and given their reputation, I think they back themselves to have him on the pitch more often than not.
Okay, well, let's move on in just this final part, talking about a player who's with us at the moment. To start with you, James, who has had a lot of problems with injuries. That's Joe Gomez. There's been some reports this week of him being available at, I've seen one report saying at a price of about £25 million, another at £30 million. I'm sceptical that anybody will pull the trigger on Joe for those kind of numbers, given just how worrying his injury record has been over the last 4 years. I know the year before last season he has a lot of availability, but either side of those seasons he really has not. So if Liverpool will struggle, I would argue, to get 20 million for Joe Gomez, is he really worth letting go? Or are we better off chancing our arm, keeping him? Because Joe Gomez's fee isn't going to make a dent in Isak's fee. Let's put it like that.
No, and I think you need good characters around the team as well. You need experience. You need players who can bed in new signings and look after young players. And everything that we hear about Joe Gomez and everything that we've seen over his Liverpool tenure would suggest that he's a really integral part of the camp, and that he's there for good vibes. I'd keep him around just for the good vibes. I heard Villa and Palace and a few other clubs mentioned, and I can see the appeal massively if he's fit, but he's just never fit. And I just think if there's other options for these clubs to come in for, I just don't see a world where they spend that sort of money on someone like Joe Gomez, because it's similar to what John just mentioned. Just to pick up on what John just said, it's one injury leads to another injury, leads to another injury. That's the kind of world that Joe Gomez exists in. And yes, he is really, really versatile in your squad. If he's fit, he can play pretty much anywhere across the back line. But it's getting him on the pitch that's the issue. I've got no issue with Joe Gomez staying at Liverpool. I think to be called upon if he has a period of time, especially Christmas and into the new year, when it's really busy time for us. Although the fixture list I think has been quite kind, certainly in the Premier League over Christmas for us. That's the period where you need someone like Joe Gomez to come in and just do a job for 2 or 3 games and just take the pressure off an Ibrahim Konate or someone like that. And for that reason alone, I think it's worth keeping Joe Gomez.
What do you think, Mo? It feels like the fourth summer we've been having this exact same conversation. I mean, Joe signed, and you must have signed a new contract in the middle of that, otherwise we wouldn't even be having this. He can't have that long left.
He loves it here as well, by the way. He seems really happy.
I think so, and I think he's kind of come to terms with his lot in terms of last summer there was lots of talk about he wishes that he'd get more playing time, he should be a bit more prominent in the side. I think maybe as he gets to another year in which Liverpool have won the Premier League, and now he's looking at his team and being like, well, they could potentially be set up to be winning things for the next 2 to 3 years, then suddenly staying here feels a little bit more appealable. Like there's something that Costa Simicas said recently, where it's like 27 games in this Liverpool team is worth more than 45, 50 for someone else. You wouldn't be surprised if Joe, who's been the longest serving player.
He said, he was on Broadway, which is a wonderful line. Listen, what a great line.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, it's a great quote.
Being at Liverpool is like being on Broadway.
Yeah.
It was the best advert.
I love him even more.
I know, it's just, the romance.
But it's a personal thing though, isn't it, Mo? You know, it's how connected you feel to a title-winning side, and if you've only played a handful of games, you sat on the bus thinking.
There are lots of variables. I think for Liverpool, it's very much like he is not a priority. His future is determined by other people's futures. So I think if Liverpool are looking to buy another centre back, which rumours are that they are, then that changes things. If Liverpool sell another homegrown player in Harvey Elliott, then that changes things. If Crystal Palace sell Mark Gahey for lots of money and they need to replace him, then that changes
If
things.
Liverpool sell Gerald Kwanzaa,
yes,
that changes things.
exactly. And I think all of those things are probably large connecting factors in the future of Joe Gomez rather than anything that Joe himself wants, because as we've seen, he might have desires to go and play more games, but I think if you said to him that you're going to have a season exactly like last season and it's going to end with another Premier League trophy, you'd probably be all right with it.
Last word to you, John. I think as much as anything, Joe Gomez needs to play some pre-season games. He really does. He needs to feature in most of the pre-season games for him even to have any options, quite frankly, or for Liverpool to have any options with him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think I've no idea of his fitness at the moment, but you'd hope he's available and ready to go in those games, because it's opportunities for everyone, isn't it? And at times he'd have got frustrated last year when he had been fit and he's not in the team, but he's not in the team because other people have played well when he's been out, and so you can't complain about it too much. But in the summer, it is a bit of a blank slate for everyone. There's no tournament, so all the players are going to be there, and so it's his chance, hopefully, to impress and to show what he can do, and that's show that this manager or another manager, of a club to take the chance on him, because I think someone would, because he is so talented, and the injury record is obviously there. Although he points out he plays 51 games the season before the last one, it's worth remembering. But for someone like a club of Aston Villa or Palace, who's obviously a little bit below that in terms of recent league positions, he's a player. You say, but he's not fit all the time. To be perfectly frank, if he's fit all the time, he's not playing for Crystal Palace. No. So it's like, you're taking a point in a way. Do you know what I mean? It's like people used to say, if only Maxi Rodriguez had more pace. And I was like, let's go and assault him. And so you've got to cut your cloth a little bit accordingly. You're in a situation for as a club where you say, well, do you? If you've got £25 million, do you buy a player who's solidly 25 million, or do you go, we'll buy a player who's maybe 45, 50 million pound, but with caveats? And the caveats might be injury records, or it might be there's rumours about his personality, or there might be it's a bit of a punt because it's a different league, or it's a step up, or whatever it sort of might be. I think most of those clubs have to gamble in some way, so I think one of them would gamble on Joe, but I hope he stays because I just really like him.
Yeah,
he needs to bloody score a goal before he leaves.
Oh yeah, 100%. And we will accept Preston.
Game on pens.
But we won't accept shoot as the encouragement for him to score a goal.
Drives you mad, that, doesn't it?
It drives all reasonable people mad. Okay.
And you.
The sunshine's getting to us all, isn't it? Okay, on that bombshell, I think we're going to go out and enjoy that sunshine and look forward to what we hope will be Florian Friday.